Something painful that you could never say before is being illuminated right now under this big Scorpio full moon. And today in this episode we are going to lean into what that is energetically. I am so very happy that you are here listening to the third episode of Starline Activations. Today is a full moon in Scorpio activation. These episodes are navigating like energetic portals between the new and the full moon. It's not so much about what we can expect, more importantly is what we can practically do with the energy of these portals. And for this one, we will feel it so very deeply because whenever Scorpio is involved, we just know that there will be weight and heaviness and there will be deep truths. Even though it is heavy, at the same time, it will be exactly what we need. Maybe while being in the Scorpio full moon portal, it will not feel like that. But I am sure that in a few weeks, we will look back on this and think, yeah, that makes perfectly sense. Thank you, Scorpio. It was maybe not necessarily fun, but it was exactly what was needed to be illuminated in that moment. Before we fully dive in, I want to mention something very exciting. Because on the 31st of May, I will be hosting together with 3 lovely ladies an Oracle Lounge party. And we will be going into sound, into numerology, into astrology, and into the mother frequency. With that, I don't mean only physical mothers, but I truly mean the frequency of nurturing and of creation. And that is living inside of all of us. If I have the links to sign up already, I will share them below, and otherwise just stay tuned because I will share it very soon. So just wanted to share that. Now let's dive into the actual activation of this full moon in Scorpio portal. On May 1st, the sun in Taurus will be opposing the moon in Scorpio. And that is exactly how we have this Scorpio full moon, when the sun and the moon are in exact opposites of each other in the sky. And during Taurus season, in the middle of spring, we are very comfortable and we are enjoying life, most probably enjoying food, taking care of our bodies, and nature is coming alive. It is actually alive again, and the weather is slowly becoming warmer. It is just comfortable, more quiet, more stable, definitely in comparison to the earlier months of 2026. But then there is the Scorpio full moon right on the other side of the zodiac, and Scorpio is questioning all that comfort that Taurus has just put into place, because if Taurus is the comfort zone, Scorpio is the edge of an open window where you are truly wondering if you are going to fall down or rise up. I love both signs, like I love all these signs, but these two signs, Scorpio and Taurus, they are just so very different. They are both very stubborn and they are truly convinced about what they hold, but they both hold it in such different ways. Because if Taurus will stubbornly work towards stability and predictability and having a fixed income and living slow and living a beautiful, slow, enjoying life, but Scorpio on the other hand will stubbornly work to bringing whatever is unconscious into the consciousness. It prefers authenticity over stability. And what I admire about the Scorpio energy is how it is willing to burn its own ego to the ground in order to build something that holds more authenticity. It is the only sign that has absolutely no fear to burn its own ego completely down. And as I am seeing this, I am having a few charts in my mind of people that I know and how they move through life. You can really see those transformative cycles. That's just beautiful about the Scorpio frequency. And that burning down, it doesn't mean that Scorpio doesn't care, because it actually cares a lot. It feels very deeply and it holds so much. Above all that, they truly find truth important, and not necessarily in the form of expressing truth, because Scorpio can withhold the truth. They can be hidden, and truth can be very secretive. And that right there is actually the paradox of the Scorpion energy, because there is a deeper layer to it. It is not about, I don't want to be honest, I don't want to tell the truth, because it really truly values authenticity. However, Scorpio doesn't have a trusting nature. That mistrust is not random. It is because Scorpio energy tunes into the psyche of others. So it naturally sees all the angles and it knows all the possibilities. And from that, then mistrust is showing up. And how that mistrust can show up is in the form of control. And mistrust can be with others, and control can be with others. But what happens with others happens to yourself first. So actually there is then a certain level of a missing self-trust, wanting to know what happens before taking a decision. And then control shows up in the form of wanting to be safe and secure before moving. And that is exactly the axis between Taurus and Scorpio. That is the energy I want to speak of today. How ultimately trust is exactly leading to authenticity, and how in order what Scorpio and this full moon energy is giving us the opportunity to lean into that trust and authenticity. Because the Scorpio energy is circling around this. It transforms through hidden truths in order to build something more authentic. And to heal its mistrust, it needs to lean into surrender, which then automatically gives the ability to hold that authenticity layer. The words sound easy, but the actual embodiment process of it goes into much deeper layers. And Alice Bailey, she calls Scorpio a sign of tests and initiations, because it just keeps going into transformational cycles. And one of those cycles is this: can you release control over what happens if you don't know the truth? And then going a little bit further, can you be fine with not knowing the answer? Because some say that Scorpio doesn't know fear. But what if that controlling shadow of Scorpio is actually a form of fear? And then from there is where that actual mistrust is coming from wanting to be in control. Because the shadow side of Scorpio wants to control how and when to be vulnerable. But the evolution part comes through trusting that regardless of what happens, it will be fine. Trusting to feel, trusting to be vulnerable, trusting that the outcome is not the point. The truth itself is not the point. It is the journey of getting there what matters. The journey is then the authenticity, and the trust becomes surrender. And that counts actually for self-trust as well. It's not the mindset, and it's not saying to yourself, I trust myself. And probably many people think like, yeah, I trust myself, why wouldn't I? But at the same time, many people also outsource their power and really want to know the outcome of things. So real self-trust is built. It is built by taking small, honest steps where you choose your own truth again and again. It is choosing without knowing what will happen and then surviving it. That is how self-trust is built, through that lived experience of doing it again and again. Then bringing this back to the Scorpion energy. How? If trust outside of yourself is not naturally flowing, how to shift that then into surrendering? Because we hear it all the time nowadays. Just surrender to the divine plan. Such truthful words. They are so true, but words just stay words if they are not lived. Knowing it is something different than actually doing it. Even if you have shifted into a state of surrender before, it can happen that you shift out of it again. Because truly surrendering is fully trusting, but trusting in a different extent. It is truly not having an attachment to a certain outcome. And in our society, that is challenging because usually we are driven by goals, driven because we want to achieve something or we want to go somewhere. And even if a goal is intrinsic, we might still attach to a certain outcome. And now imagine if you have no attachment to outcome, it doesn't mean that we no longer have goals. It also doesn't mean that we no longer care. What it means is that we go beyond the deeper meaning of the goal. We go into the higher goal, so to speak. For example, last year I set the goal of setting up an astrology business. However, I was attached to the outcome. I had exactly in mind how I wanted it to look, how many readings per week I wanted to give, making it very measurable, because that would mean being able to quit my office job. But then at one point I questioned myself, what is the higher goal beyond wanting to set up this astrology business? It was wanting to be of service, helping the collective consciousness to rise in frequency, sharing what has helped me to shift. And none of that had anything to do with that office job. But making that the outcome created an attachment, created a self-created pressure for myself. And currently I don't mind anymore how I do that, how I reach the higher goal. I want to be of service, and if that is going to be through astrology, that is great. If that is through another way, I will still love astrology, but I'm not going to force it. I am trusting that however I can be best of service to my own highest path and that of the collective, that will just surface on my path. And being of service, what I mean with that is not in the form of an obligation, not in the form of duty, because I think that that's how we very quickly go back into the old paradigm. But what I mean is actually living from my most authentic self. And honestly, I trust that. And you know what I realize is that trust is not a step that is coming before authenticity. It's not like a staircase. Trust is built by these different moments and by different acts of being authentic. So that is how you build that trust. And with that trust, you then automatically flow in surrender. So they are all intertwined and they are all connected to each other. And this is exactly where the full moon is coming in with some facts, because we will have the sun at 11 degrees of Taurus and the moon at 11 degrees of Scorpio, and both are in square to Pluto that is at 5 degrees in Aquarius. It's a little bit of a white orb, but we will feel this tension deeply because the luminaries are in tension square with Pluto, and Pluto is the ruler of this lunation because Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio. So whatever Pluto is doing, we want to pay attention to that. We want to lean into it and we want to listen to what the energy is truly asking of us. And what it is pointing to is where feelings of safety and truth and choices around staying in the comfort zone are showing up. Staying in the comfort zone versus going into the authenticity. And then questions come up around, are we really aligned with what we are doing, or does a deeper truth want to be revealed? That is what is truly being illuminated. And May 1st, the day of the full moon, Mercury meets up with Chiron in Aries, and this is what is multiplying the energy, because that translates the moon, her inner friction, into a wound around speaking, around expressing, around saying the thing that just felt too much, and now it really wants to be said. It could be something internally as well, like there was something lingering for a while and all of a sudden it is clear, having a moment of clarity around having a certain wound. But right now, actually saying it, actually acknowledging it and accepting it, maybe saying it out loud to yourself, like, okay, this part right here, it hurts. This is making me feel in pain, and not trying to control it or to suppress it, but just like, yes, okay, I see you, letting it be seen. That is the healing, because the medicine of this tension square between Pluto and the full moon is in Leo. And what does Leo better than any sign is being seen from the heart. So if the medicine is in Leo, be vulnerable with your heart. Say what hurts, feel what hurts. Just allow it to be there and allow it to be seen. Leo is also very creative. You might want to translate your wound into a painting, into singing, dancing, poems. With Mercury and Chiron together, translating it to poems, into words, can feel really healing. And creative expression in general will feel healing under this full moon. And that can be different for everyone. It can be as simple as it needs to be seen by you, by yourself, but it can also mean saying or sharing something that you feel hurt by, that was long due to say to someone. This is where it gets personal and individual. But however, creative expression will feel very healing, letting it be seen by yourself, having the clarity around it, staying with it. Those things that hurt and will heal the wound. So with that, let's gently bring awareness to where we still might hold some form of control. And let's just slow down. If you are able to close your eyes, I invite you to do so, because we can enter meditative states with our eyes open. We can breathe with intention. We can just slow down a little bit and fully connect with where we are. Just wind down, filling your lungs just a little bit slower and a little bit fuller. And here is where I invite you to open the palms of your hands fully. Feel how it feels to open your palms. Now imagine whatever has been hurting to be right there in the palm of your hand. Observe it right there in the middle of your hand. Can you release the idea of how this should heal? Your hand is currently full. The wound and the hurt is right there, you can see it. What if the reason it is still there is because we control what the healing needs to look like? Nothing new can arrive in a full palm. Observe it, acknowledge it. Now if you feel called, state to the universe that you see where it hurts, and you trust that however this will pass, even if your awareness does not have the answer right now. You allow what is meant to come to come. Thank you for listening, and I will see you in the next one under the new moon in Taurus.